Hello, gentle viewers, and welcome to another episode of Alistair Reviews It. So, in case you accidentally clicked on this or it just came up on your feed and you're like, oh, that's a video about gay books or LGBT books, and I'm not part of that community, so this ain't for me. Before we do that, just reconsider because I would implore you to think about a world where you are not represented, where you growing up don't see people like you represented in the media, whether it be TV, movies, books, and always really searching for a character that you can identify on a different level. I would believe that this is even more so for people of color, and especially people of color who are queer. And then I just want to say that we have been for years and years and years and years really consuming very white, cis, straight content. And I'm not going to say that I haven't enjoyed it, but I've always looked for my representation. So I feel like if people would step outside of the comfort zone a bit, you know, decide to read something that they maybe wouldn't read, or decide to watch a show or a movie that they usually wouldn't pick up. And guess what? You might actually like it. You might actually be able to understand a more diverse perspective than what you already understand. So today I'm going to be talking about my Pride TBR. I moved all of my Pride videos, all my videos for June to July because I was super busy at work. So I'm going to be putting those out here in July instead of June. And I'm going to be talking about my Pride Month TBR. I'm going to be participating. Going to be talking about participating very late in the Queer Black Readathon that happened on June 19th. I'll link the announcement down below, but I wasn't able to do it, so I'm going to do it in July. And then I'm also going to be talking about recognizing what it means to be a Mexican American with white privilege. So you cannot talk about Pride Month or Pride without recognizing how far we've come and what got us there. The 20th century had a lot of milestones for the gay rights movement. In particular, when people think of the gay rights movement, they think of the Stonewall riots, the riots of 1969, where police in New York invaded the Stonewall Inn, and the LGBT community just decided that they had enough of it, and they rioted demanding equal rights. And I would be a hypocrite if I didn't recognize that I immediately benefit from the people who came before me, who rallied for rights in a way that I have not. I joined the military in 2012, a year after the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I didn't push for Don't Ask, Don't Tell to be repealed. I was in high school. Other people did. Other people did that for me. Other people did that for people in the military to be able to serve as openly as our heterosexual peers. I married my husband in 2017, a year after 2016, where marriage was legalized throughout the United States. I have directly benefited from people who have sacrificed their livelihood, have even in some situations sacrificed their life for me to be able to live as normally as I can, for me to be able to have a career in the military and also have a loving husband that I can be completely open about. So I just wanted to recognize that for a second and then go into my TBR. I'm not the fastest reader. I chose 5 books for this TBR, though I doubt I'll actually get through all 5 books. Those will probably be pushed at some point. I'll do a TBR wrap up at the end of the month. But I really wanted to pick books outside of my gay male perspective, because I've read gay books, but they're usually gay male books. So I wanted to really have a more diverse selection this time around. So I decided to pick one lesbian book, one gay book, one bisexual book, or at least have a bisexual relationship in it, one transgender book, and one queer book or a book that has queer themes. So I mostly review fantasy books on this channel. So I mostly looked into fantasy books for this TBR. However, I do have one memoir and I do have one historical fiction. I think those, yeah, one memoir and one historical fiction. Without further ado, my lesbian book pick for this month is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. I've heard a couple people raving about this one on Twitter, and it sounded really exciting to me. Necromancy, lesbians, high fantasy, and I know it's gotten some pretty good reviews. I'm kind of going into this one a little bit blind. I'm going into a couple of these, most of these, a little bit blind, and just kind of trying to discover the story as I go through it. I'll probably be updating Twitter about all these books and trying to read a little bit of them a day at time allowing, except for my 48-hour Queer Black Readathon. My gay book pick is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. So I really loved TJ Klune's The Bear, Otter, and the Kid, which I did a very brief review of in my Romances video I did a couple years ago. And I didn't know that he came out with a fantasy book, but he came out with a fantasy book a couple months ago, and I needed to get it. And it's basically, I know it follows this guy who goes to different magical orphanages to check up on kids. So I'm interested in how this fantasy book is going to unfold. Plus, I really love this cover. Actually, I really love this cover too. My buy book pick for the month is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. So I was trying to look up books that had bisexual relationships in them, and this one came up, and I haven't read it before, and my husband's read it, and he said it was pretty amazing. So I decided to pick it up, and also it's one of my picks for the Queer Black Readathon, and I'm excited about it. I know it's a not historical, it's a historical fiction about a woman growing up in the early portion of the 20th century, and you go through her trials and tribulations in her life as she kind of figures things out. So I'm excited about that. I really like historical fiction that takes place in the 20th century with a 21st century mindset. My trans book pick for the month is a memoir. So I looked up to see if there was any like trans people in fantasy, and I did get some notifications for some trans representation in fantasy, but especially for like the bigger fantasy books, it's more so like, oh, it's different species that don't, that are non-binary or don't have a gender ascribed to them, or it'll be like, I know, for example, in the Mistborn series, we have a god that is non-binary, neither male nor female, and so I think we have trans representation in that, but I don't think that the trans representation in fantasy is as obvious as it can be. So I decided to grab a memoir of a trans person just so that I could read through their perspective, how they went through the transition and what this meant to them, instead of trying to read a more literary perspective. So I grabbed this book, Redefining Realness by Janet Mock, and this looks like it'll be a very like quick, nice read. And I grabbed this one because I've heard of this book before. I haven't grabbed it before. I'm just recently kind of getting into memoirs or memoir-like books, and I've been watching Pose with my husband, and we're really liking it. She is a director for Pose, and I'm just really curious as to her life and how she got to where she is right now. My next book is, and I'm not sure if this is cheating, but is the third book in the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. So I've already read the first two books, which I really loved, and then I couldn't move on to the third book yet because there were some things that were going on at the end of the second book, and I knew what was going to happen in the third book, and I just didn't want it to happen yet. And I just wanted to kind of, sometimes I like to take a break, especially if I think that some things are going to happen to my favorite characters that I'm not looking forward to it happening. So this will be my queer book pick. N.K. Jemisin has a lot of queer themes that go throughout this series, this trilogy, including polyamory, bisexuality, pansexuality, and different levels of representation overall. So I know for my queer readathon, it'll be the Redefining Realness. It'll be Redefining Realness, The Color Purple, and the third book in the Broken Earth trilogy. So I'll be trying to read through that in a 48-hour period. I doubt I'll be able to get through all three of them. I'm probably going to start with Redefining Realness and The Color Purple, going into N.K. Jemisin's third book. So very excited about that. Again, I will be posting the announcement from Jessie from Bowties Books, Francina Simone, Lauren from the novels Lush, and Mauna from It's Mile Reads. So I'll be linking their channels and the announcement below. My husband and I have been talking a lot about white privilege, what it means to be white, educating ourselves, and recognizing failure. One of my biggest failures is recognizing that I can be Mexican and also definitely benefit from white privilege. It's not enough to watch or read books with LGBT or POC characters. If we want these books published, if we want these shows greenlit, if we want movies with representation, we need to be actively seeking them out. Creating a larger market that more effectively makes up the makeup of our generation. Put your money where your mouth is. Continue to consume content that is diverse, that promotes diversity. And I know I've been a hypocrite with this. I've wanted more content with more diversity, but I feel like I have failed in being able to do that and actually consuming the content that I've been rallying for. So that's a failure of my own. I'm really excited. I know a lot of you already did your LGBT TBRs, but if you are still reading yours or you want to participate in and read some of these books with me, please let me know. Please check out the Queer Black Readathon. I'm going to be doing it this month, which I hope is okay. And I'm just really excited to get to read these awesome, gorgeous books. I have The Color Purple, which is on its way, which guess what? It's sold out of like all online retailers right now. But if you go on eBay, you can get it. And I know like the mass market paperback was like $40 on Amazon, for example, and like Barnes and Noble. But you can actually get the mass market paperback for $8 or for around $8 to $11 on eBay. So, which is pretty exciting. And then I have N.K. Jemisin's book on the way, so I'm very excited about all these. Love reading them, a hard copy. Probably gonna also buy a couple audiobooks of these because that's what I do. Anyways, I've ranted for a little bit, and I'm excited to be back, and I'm excited to hear from you guys. Adios, gentle viewers. See you next time. Hasta luego.